All right, let's listen. I have to use my authority to change some things on this program because they are military people, but they are not socialists. So I have to do things the way it will work for me. And so at this time, if you were during the afternoon time, afternoon time, if you were there, we had a lot of fun and a lot of things were said. And we must continue to hear from our people that came from Nigeria. And at this time, I think it sounds more important for you to hear from our Honorable Senator. And, he will share some things with us. And for somebody to come all the way from Nigeria at this critical time, so it means a lot to us and to him. And it is my pleasure if you would give me a sounding round of applause for my brother, one of the credible senators. Everybody can be a senator, but it's not, they don't have the word credible one. You know that, especially in our country, Nigeria, but this one is a credible one. And let us give a resounding applause for our Senator Abaribe. Yes, sir. Senator. Yes, so so because this is important. Thank you, my Senator.
AVID Mamano Amamdun Natoji AVID Bueno and Leone Haitiana. That's how we greet over here in our place as Igbos. And the Bahagawunga and I what I in our com. AVID ya the Kurun Mau the Bongore protocol of Kan protocol anya wonye chiri ko chiri ya sere. Ulo kwenu Pamuro Tony Igbo na-akpọ Gustavo Basal. Onye no Gustavo Basal ya na-ajụ si ọwụ. But he was taken as a slave. Then the slave master named him Gustavo Basal after himself. But at the time he left, he knew he was an Igbo. So he said his name is Oluwada Equiano. Equiano Okwanikwano. Nehina. Professor Kathleen Acholono traced him to Equiano no. And he was the first Igbo person to trace the genealogy and the way of Ndi. And we are a nation, almost a nation of dancers, musicians, and poets. Therefore, before we start anything that we sing, Anila Yanolo, Echoro, Eronubi, Ghana Guri. All one na he will tell you, that now you lost somebody. Ebiapa, Igebuz of Okwa, Uri. That you have to have a difficult conversation. Igebuz of Werepanon Takruri, Were, I told that Obia didn't mantle. Matutu, Hanoma, so, ta, to any animal. One man walking. Ana po Mike Jiaga. Mike Gurulia na in the 80s. Kama imubua, our younger people who ndana ponde Gen Z. Abilie ha kwaria ya. So tuone ni me hone Gen Z ani. Ana po brain jota. Video last year, Tio to him. ụwa niile abịa anụ ya. So tutu anyị eme this difficult conversation gbasara ndị Igbo n'ụlọ, anyị lee ma anyị nwere ike iji ntakịrị lee otu Gen Z Brain Jota ji doma olu ma nke ji agha. Ekwenye ọ bụrụ nna meze akpụta m enyi, nna meze akpụta m enyi, nwambe isi n'ịkpọta onye, nwambe isi n'ịkpọta onye. Asịmanị mọpụta enyi dị be enyi, ọ dịka asịma pụta m enyi. Asịmanị ya pụta enyi dị be enyi, ọ dịka asịma pụta enyi. Ọkwa enyi ga-abụ isi oche, ọkwa enyi ga-abụ isi oche. Enyi na-aga na iso gị n'azụ. Mgbe anyị bidoro na-agụ ya, ọ na-atọ mmadụ niile. But why were we doing it? Anyị na-agba ogogo ngwọ maka na anyị chọrọ ịgba egwu. Ọwụ na in Nigeria, ndị ụlọ anyị na-asị na ndị anyị na ha bidoro na-achụ mmụọ tụgharịziri sị na anyị na-achịzi mmụọ. Unu aghọta ihe m na-ekwu? So ya ome anyị, even though edere m ya ede n'akwụkwọ anyị ga-enyekwa unu ya, onye ya ga-eme gị sure na mmadụ niile ga-enweta because 13-page paper. But a ma egbu ya nke mbụ ka Dr. Onya gwara m sometime last year, sị m biko na m ga-abịa ka anyị na unu kwuo okwu gbasara Nigeria, Igbo na ebe anyị nọ. O nwekwana ihe anyị ga-ekwu a na-ekwubeghị. O nweghị ihe anyị ga-ekwu a na-ekwubeghị. But ugbu a ala emebiela. Mgbe uche nọ na-ekwu how the country is, the suffering is too much, trouble everywhere in Nigeria. So a na-ekwukwana na-asị olee ihe mere nọ ndị ọzọ si ka egbuo onwe ha, ndị Igbo ekweghị. Ọ maka na we are a unique people. Chineke gọziri anyị, nye anyị otu ihe. Adịghị ahụ o nyere anyị dị iche na ihe o nyere ndị Igbo ndị Naịjirịa ndị ọzọ. Ịgụrụ otu onye Igbo dowe n'etiti, ọ ga-anọ nga mfuo. Ị na-ajụzi onwe gị ka ezi ka onye a ji meta ihe a. And you now know that we are a very, very unique people. Kama nsogbu anyị na Nigeria, enwere otu onye anyị nwere ike iji were aha ya were zi nsogbu ndị Igbo na Nigeria. Aha wụ Nnamdi Kanu. Onwe ihe o mere, ị gaa elu gị ala, onwe ihe o mere ndị ọzọ na-emeghị, kama nke ya bụ iche maka na ọ wụ ya nwa ha ejide ya. So anyị niile in Nigeria, we are all Nnamdi Kanu, being held down by the country in the state of marginalization and exploitation. So, Amam Nunuwa Wunde, you have done your best to try to help, and we will continue to help. But there are a few things that we need to point out for our people. One, ole mgbe mmiri ji baa n'opi ụgbọgọrọ. Ọ bụrụ na ihe m na-ekwu. For those who don't understand me, there's a particular plant, botanical name, but we call it ubo. And when it grows, it has this fruit. And inside the fruit, a lot of water. And people always want to wonder, how did the water enter into this? So we want to ask ourselves, how did we get to this point? And I will be very, very quick about it. The one that concerns Nigeria and the one that concerns us as indeed. The one that concerns Nigeria is simple. We are in competition. Every ethnic group in Nigeria is in competition with the other. And therefore, the first thing they do is to try to hold you down. And we now have a situation where we have what we call a federal character challenge. The founding fathers of Nigeria knew that we may have a problem between the different groups. And so, they first heard that we had a federal constitution. Then by the 70s and 80s, we also had a law called the Federal Character Law to make sure that everything is equal, but it's now observed in the breach. And what do I mean that is observed in the breach? We have a president today, President Tinubu. How does he share appointments among Nigerians? We have 6 zones. The Igbo zone is the southeast zone. Now, if everything is 100%, and one zone gets 35%, and another zone gets 11%, what will you call that? So, President Tinubu comes from the southwest. All appointments by President Tinubu, 35% of all appointments in the country. For the southeast, another zone, 11%. You can't justify it. And that 11%, do you know how we got it? Because there's a stipulation in the law that you must give something to a state. So, for example, you must give a minister to a state. So, he has no option than to give it to us. But then, he's from the southwest that has 6 states. And he gave them 10 ministers. And we have 5 states in the southeast, and he gave us 5. Just that thing that is declared by law. So that is why we say that you have a federal character challenge. The second challenge was the one that we talked about in the afternoon. The challenge of insecurity in the southeast and the rest of Nigeria. But I'll tell you one thing. As much as the insecurity is in the southeast today, part of it is externally induced to create the impression that this is a zone of people who are always agitators. And so we have had evidence, and we have always told them, and I've told them at all times, when we have interactions with the military, I tell them that if you want to stop the insecurity, you will do so. You just don't want to. Because when Dr. Onya was telling you that he knew how, I was arrested by President Buhari and his people. How did they arrest me? They used my phone and tracked me to a barber shop. And as I was coming out of the barber shop, they held me and took me into their gulag. Which means, but today, you have a situation where bandits, terrorists and all that are on TikTok in Nigeria. And you're telling me you can't trap them. How does that compute? The technology is there. Everything is there. Some people just don't want to do their job. The day they want to do their job, everything will be okay. That is on the federal side with it. But for us as Ndibo, what is our real problem? I will just round it up and say, one, is a loss of a sense of self. By my side here is a very lovely sister, wife of our warlord. At the time that it was critical, he stood up and said, no, we won't take this. What we are having today in Alibu is that we have leadership that has been imposed on us who do not have that fire in the belly, let me just put it that way, to say no to the things that are happening to Ndibo. And it has permeated down to the fact that our youth today no longer value things like integrity, hard work, and the things that we are known for. So we find that in Nigeria, we don't excel. But whenever we come out and come to America, we are the people that excel in America over here. And I give you kudos for that. What this loss has led us to is that we have in the Southeast today a lot of youths, young people, and even those who are a little, without any skill, and they're not employable. So, what we used to see in the North, which is dependency on another person, is what we are now seeing creeping into Alibu, where somebody doesn't work, gets up, and simply hangs around looking for handouts. That's not what we used to be. We don't take handouts before. We are known for that. And for me, as a politician, we are expected that anywhere we go, we give out freebies. And so if you don't, then you're the wrong type of politician. You won't win election the next time. And so when you go to anywhere and your car pulls up, a crowd of youths will just follow you around and be singing and shouting your praise so that you will throw money at them. And because I wasn't doing it, I was always being seen as a very stingy and wicked person. And the man just doesn't give anything. And I always feel that, why should I give you? So, in some point, I will meet some youth and I will ask them, are you not ashamed of yourself? Doing nothing but waiting for somebody to give you a handout so that you can go and eat. So we have that, and where that has led us to is that people want to earn without work. And so they get into so many other practices. And one of the ones that is holding us today, hostage in Alibu, is what they call a gombute. The Egombute phenomenon has held everyone down. What it does is that people watch all these our home movies. People listen to the music, and people look at other people. They just see people come around and flaunt money, and they are told that you can be a billionaire without, well, it's either you have not developed an app or you haven't provided any service, but you can just have money. And so they continue pursuing it. And it has led most of them to now become our Christian upbringing. And the attitude of work has been diminished. And you now see people going back going to native doctors, going to all manners of things, and doing fetish things just to make quick money. And this has led a lot of our people. So there's hardly any village you go to that you don't see young people just roaming about doing nothing. All looking for a way to make that quick hit. What is the other thing that is holding us down? It's a tripartite thing, which Honorable Uche has been a victim of, and most of us are victims. And I was speaking to somebody this evening from Imo who were telling me that there are three things. It's called Nkari, Mpari, and Mebu. So somebody gets a political position like myself, and I become a governor. And because I've had a dispute with Iyom, I now want to show Iyom that I'm bigger, I'm better, which is Nkari. I want to show you that na Nkari. And so I now put all my political power on that place. And of course, that leads to a resentment. Because you hate the person, you want to show that you're free. So you tie a rope all the way to the person's village and stop. That's what happens. You put water and all that, you don't put in that place. You take electricity down, you don't let those people. You do appointments, you make sure that nobody from that side comes, just to show Akarenge. And that is now widespread in Alibo. Usually when you become an elected person, you're supposed to be elected for all, including those who did not vote you in. But we now see that somebody goes in there with a mindset. So, what does that lead to? You now oppress those hapless ones that they cannot fight back. And what do the people now do? The people now say, okay, so we fight back against you. And that has completely divided Alibo. So where we should come together, we don't come together. And of course, if we don't come together, we cannot go and fight the larger Nigerian society. That is our bane today. But the other things about lack of leadership and all that, we all know. The other things about infrastructure, we all know. But then, should we continue to complain? That is one thing that we have said we will never do again. That we won't complain. That ndị Igbo say, you try your best and you move on. You make sure that you get to where you want to go. So I want to commend AVID for looking at these problems of Alibo and say that we have to forge on and make sure Alibo will be that place that we all desire that it will be. Jesus.
Because the Akala Nelo Kuna Kupunaka, Kutubanaka, see our honorable senator, Elela no detain back Oya Ocean. Oya Ocean. Upon the Jugam, and the Jugam say, anything Elehani Belanga for letting her and the Pona Nona. As on Onakuru Lukawala, Egate Relay never again for Orakon. I know some of you are on here 50 years and I'm not going to so quick, but say, get why are you saying that? My one gets to catch up. It's supposed to listen to you people. Thank you very much. Very much. Thank you. My senator, thank you. All right, man.